Okay, hi. Okay, so it's Rebbe Rashab's birthday, special day. He was born on Chaf Cheshvan, the year Taf Kisra.
Kesser.
Yeah, Kisra. So Taf Reish Chaf Aleph, which is Kisra, Keser, and Chaf is Keser. So it's Keser of Keser. And his first mimer was Keser Lulacha, the crown we give to you. So what he brought down was like the crown of the crown. We talked about the spheros and like the highest point being the crown. So at that level of Keser, Keser of Keser, which there's an external of the Keser and there's an internal of the Keser. And where Yidden come from is really the internal of Keser, like the place where there's like the most panemius pleasure and delight, like that is, and that's the point that he brought down for us to be able to, and in the way that he broke down Chassidus and revealed Chassidus, brought down and able for us to be able to grasp it and experience that in our lives, because really Geula happens through us. Like when we use our inner faculties and we engage our mind and we harness our emotions and our energy, then we are able to experience it and heal our bodies, and which is like also very relevant to Sari Menu, like experience things with the body. Like this is really how we welcome and experience Geula. And so even with like the last like the three Rebbeim, the Rebbe Rashab, the previous Rebbe, and our Rebbe. So it says there's three things that Mashiach needs to do, right? Which is we have three things that we need to do, like in the times of Mashiach, basically, like when we come to Eretz Yisrael, we have to anoint a king, which is Keser Nulacha, destroy Amalek, which is actually, that was the Friedrich Rebbe's generation, is destroying Amalek, right? His first mimer being Reish Goyim Amalek, and our Rebbe was Basi Lagani, what's that, right? Building a base of Mikdash. So we're starting this so with the Rebbe Rashab's kufa of like bringing Mashiach like all the way down to the ground, into our being.
Oh, it says
And so another point about this parsha also, so there's a Sicha of the Rebbe where he discusses the where it says in the Torah, everything that Sarah says, listen to her, right? Sarah representing kind of Kabbalistically, Sarah representing the body, and Abraham representing the soul. Like, and Sarah, and saying, so the Rebbe asks, like, what is that? Like, we say that, the mind rules the heart. Like, you don't give it to every inclination of your body. It's like, no, Mashiach times, really. And we see it now so much, like the body doesn't lie, right? The body keeps the score. Like everything that the body says, we're not talking about our idea of what the body's saying, like the body itself, the physical body itself is holding that divine information that's even higher than the mind can grasp. And that's like one of the gifts of Sari Menu, like she was able to go down and come up, where Abraham never went down to Mitzrayim. Sari Menu did, right? And that's where we got the koach to be able to go into Mitzrayim and leave Mitzrayim. Why? Because Maaseh Avos Siman Labanim. Sari Menu went in and came up. And so we were able to also go in and come up. And so this week's Torah Or is actually, it's not directly connected to Sari Menu. But it's connected to food actually, which is very connected to Sari Menu, because we were talking about going into the most physical things and really experiencing the revelation of Hashem and experiencing the pleasure of the deep connection with Hashem within the most physical things and our basic things. Then that's really, a taste of Mashiach. So this mimer is the Dibra Maskil, the words that it's based on are actually words from the Arizal. There's three nigunim, like melodies. There's three that we sing on Shabbos. There's one for Shabbos night, one for Shabbos day, and one for when Shabbos is going out, right? And so this is one that we sing at Shabbos day. Asad of the Sudasa. And this line in it is Yagalin Taime. So I will reveal the secrets, the reasons. The Taime can also mean taste, flavor, but reasons. I didn't see it. Tresar Nahame, of the 12 showbreads, there was 12 breads in the base of Megdash. The Ilnas Mishme, that they represent a letter of his name, kafila uklisha, like doubled and weakened. So he's using this, like, it's like, okay, where'd that come from? So you say maras machpela and kafila uklisha, like kafila, he's talking about, because maras machpela is doubled. So we're talking about a letter of Hashem's name that's doubled, and it's weaker. So we're going to understand what that means, because that's very esoteric and it doesn't make so much sense. It's not translated like literally doubled and weaker in the Siddur, but in this mimer, he's going into that. Klisha is really meaning that it's weaker. So we're going to understand that means. And so I'm not going to even go into so much the first part of the mimer, but there is this one little, should I just do one little Kabbalistic thing on? Okay. So there's like different letter names of Hashem or names of Hashem, and maybe we'll talk about it more depending when we talk about Rachel and Leah, and how one represents the more concealed world, the world of thought, and one representing more of the world of speech and action. So we say there's like the Shem Ma, which would be like, when we say Ma, we're talking about something that's totally above us, like Ma is like Chachma. And we say the Shem Ban. Ban is Malchus, it's speech, it's a lower level. So there's this, so we can explain how we get, so he's saying this, we're talking about this Maras Machpelah, and this weaker hay is in this Shem Ban. And how do we get that name Ban? There's this thing called, there's gematrias, which is like every letter has a number that corresponds to it. But then, and there's also this other way of doing gematria where it's like the milui. So each letter is spelled of different letters. So like Yud, for instance, would be Yud, Vav, Yud. Following, should I write it down?
Okay, I'll try visually.
Okay, so Yud would be Yud, Vav, Yud, Vav, Dalet, sorry. So like that would be Yud. Can't really see it, okay. Yeah, there's other letters, so right. So, and there's ways to spell it, like Ma, Shem Ma, is very connected to the idea of revealing the Aleph, because it's Hashem's name, spell it with Aleph, meaning that the Hey would, in that instance, be spelled Hey Aleph. So Yud, like Yud, Vav, Dalet, and Hey, Hey Aleph, Vav, I don't remember, I think it's Vav, Aleph, Vav, and then Hey Aleph, I believe. It says it in your Siddur. So that's like Shem Ma. Or Shem Ban is when you spell out Hashem's name with Hays. You're spelling the Hays, Hey, Hey. So you have the Yud, Yud, Vav, Dalet, Hey, Hey, Vav, Vav, Hey, Hey. And that adds up to Ban. That is the 52-letter name of Hashem, which corresponds to Malchus, and which makes sense because we're using these Hays, which Hay is Malchus. That makes sense.
Yeah,
and this is why is this? Yeah.
Whether you're focusing on Hashem's name, it's for a reason.
Yeah, for a reason. And why is this? This seems like really big, deep Kabbalistic stuff, and it can be, but it also, for me anyway, like sometimes we could just take a moment and stop and look at like a simple word and just see like, what else is in there? Like we can just like, just like take a minute to be like, I'm going to look deeper into this. Things are jam-packed with lots of information, and we can just take a little time to meditate on those things. Even if we don't understand 100% every idea within it, it's still like so we're going to talk about this. We're going to talk a little bit about this, and he's not going to really go on to really talk about so much about the Maras and Machpelah, but we're going to go into really talking about the idea of food really and eating, which nowadays, there's like a lot of stigma around eating, but there are other things in our lives that we have to be engaged in, but we have to also kind of be above it. And I think for me, the internet is like a perfect example, like social media, like it's hard to not be engaged in some way, but it can also trip us up, right? We want to stay above it so it doesn't control us, that we're using it for the good, but it's not using us, right? So, and like the food, same idea. Okay, the inyan yuvan behaktim lehavin inyan ha'achila. So we have to understand this by prefacing the idea of eating. Ki hine ikar achila liyos ki min hamachal nasa chela v'dam v'hadam hu hanefesh v'chayus ha'adam. So eating from it, from the food, it becomes the fat and the blood of the person, and the blood of the person, the animal soul actually lives in the blood. The blood of a person is a person's chayas. Even in acupuncture, like the most its flow. Is there enough blood? Because blood is carrying the nutrients and the energy. And so what we eat, we literally are what we eat. It breaks down, it becomes what we are. Okay. So makbel hakeved hadam min hamachal, right? The liver receives the blood from what we eat. Vishiluch lalev l'moch, and it sends it to the heart and the mind. To salash litin inun be'alma chada. Okay, so it goes in and it becomes like, it's like his mind and his heart, and the person then is going to use his mind and heart to serve Hashem. And we see this in deep ways, yes, but even in regular ways. Like when I don't eat, I'm like can't focus or function or talk to people. It's something that we actually need, and we need it. Like for me to be a mensch, like I need to have eaten something. Like our food helps us function, right? It becomes what we are, but also like without it, we can't go so long without food, right? And drink especially. And through this, actually, the food is elevated, that becomes the mind and the heart, physical, like the cells, right? Like of the mind and the heart of the person. Through this, his mind and his heart is strengthened in Avodas Hashem. Shebelibo bislavus karishbe eish shenase bekoach achila, right? And then he can arouse in himself like a fiery fire because he has like the energy that he gained from the food. Shebela achila hayam yischal eshlu. Because without eating, he would feel weak. And so on. Should I sit on the couch? Maybe it's a little more comfortable. Okay, but it's funny angle. That looks too. Okay. And right, and his mind also, he can't really focus without the energy from the food, right? His mind also becomes stronger from the food. But all of this, so we're talking about the difference between the weekday eating and the Shabbos eating. And it's like important to note also, we're coming into times that are Kulo Shabbos, which he's going to speak about at the end, where like the weekday eating though, meaning that like there's this aspect of we're eating in order to get the energy from the food. Like what we need from it is the energy. And so not just like indulging just to zone out or numb out or escape. But we're eating to get the nutrients, to get the energy. And I'm not even saying, and sometimes there is like a healthy kind of, I mean, I think that even these days there is a healthy kind of emotional eating too. Like we need to get something so that we can do something else, sort of thing. And that's because the food actually comes from a higher source than the person, right? The food, we know about like the world of Tohu, where the vessels broke and the sparks shattered. So the food is from the world of Tohu, and that's why it's actually able to give us energy, because it comes from a higher source than we do. And when we talk about the Jew, like, yes, obviously there's nothing higher than the Jew, but there's the essence of the Jewish soul, and there's the created Jewish soul. So the essence of the soul is obviously higher than anything else, but the created soul is the world of Tikkun. And that's the whole point of the Jewish soul, is that because it's the world of Tikkun has massive vessels, so it's actually able to contain the light, right? So it has to come from the world of Tikkun for us to be able to go into this world and to elevate and to manifest. We have to, like, so even though the essence of our soul is from way higher, the created soul, because there's the essence of the soul, and the created soul, as it is a functional soul, is from the world of Tikkun. And so we're receiving our energy from something that's from a higher source. And that's why it's able to fuel us. If it came from lower than us, it wouldn't really be able to fuel us or help us. But anything that we engage in the world is really kind of that same idea. I'm engaging in something and I'm using it to elevate. I'm elevating it, but I'm also using it to elevate me. Like when we have beautiful things, like I'm not just elevating it, but I'm creating space to allow it to also elevate me. And that's really coming into like this Shabbos aspect of it. So, so we talk about this thing of Beirur, right? And we hear like Beirur is like, it's like separating, right? It's one of the malachos of Shabbos. So Shabbos, it's one of the things we can't do on Shabbos, right? So that's like another key aspect. But when we eat, we're always doing it. It says like we didn't go to the bathroom we didn't have any waste when we were in the desert from eating, because there was nothing to separate. like the whole process in our body of digestion and taking the nutrients and excreting what's not useful. That is bearer. That is, we're taking the good and we're getting rid of what we don't need. We're taking what we need and getting rid of what we don't need. So that's like a process that is what's happening. And during, so he's talking about this weekday eating. Okay. So okay. So so he's saying, so it seems, so so you could say that it's like, right, it seems that the food is from a higher source from the person, and therefore the food gives life to the person. The Adam hu mekabel hachayus min ha'ochel, the fishu b'chinas achor l'maaseh breshis, right? It says achor v'kedam, it's sartani, right? It's a pasuk in Tehillim, like achor meaning back, behind, and v'kedem meaning proceeding, right? So the person has this dichotomy in terms of that the person was created last of all of creation, but all of creation is created for him, and he kind of has shlita over all of creation and can actually affect it and elevate it, where creation can't really affect itself. Like, and even like there's no other being in the world. I saw this little clip where somebody was talking about aliens. I'm just gonna bring that up. No, he was saying he was saying one of those videos. So who knows? I'm gonna bring it here and maybe we'll elevate the whole thing. So he was saying, like, why do people think aliens are bad? They think like that they're evil. Like that doesn't make any sense. No other creature in all of reality has the potential for evil except for humans, which is like an animal. Animals kill. That's their nature. Like the only creature that has this potential or this mixture of good and evil and has the free choice to be able to go to the side of evil, chas v'shalom, and the side of good, God willing, but like is human beings, meaning that why is it funny?
It's a good point.
It's a good point.
We think that aliens are like some human on one of the planets.
Yeah, like they must be like really mean. Like they're like worse for humans. Like we just created out of our mind. But like no, maybe they're just like, all right, we're not talking about aliens. This class is not about aliens. Okay.
Perhaps we should focus on the ocean. The really cool stuff is down there.
Yeah, the ocean also is actually incredibly deep. It's like several Mount Everests deep. The ocean. We'll talk about that next time. No. Anyhow, here we go again. Okay. So the point of that was he's saying Achor Kedem Yatzartani. Okay. Where were we at? Okay. The Adam who mekabel achayus miyamachal lefi shehu b'chinas achor l'maaseh breshis, because he's like that. He's the last thing created in maaseh breshis. V'shabas who's man aliyas ha'olamos misaleh machal kamoshu b'sharsho. Right. So on Shabbos, and we know it in ourselves, like from sleeping. Like when we go home and we sleep, we're disconnecting from our expression of self. We like, what is it when you need to take a nap? Like, I need to actually go into myself completely. Like, I'm not expressing like sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system. Like I am coming into myself. And so that Shabbos, like, what does it mean Hashem's resting on Shabbos? Is he not creating at all? No, but all of creation goes up into him. So it exists as it essentially exists. Like it exists at its point, at its created point, but within creator, not as expressed. Like it's not expressed creation, it's creation as it is within the creator. So on Shabbos, all of the worlds go up. So our experience and our engagement with the physical world and pleasure we're not experiencing it as creation, and that's why the 6 days a week, it's like really about producing, right? And accomplishing, and that's why, and we're doing malacha, and right, and the building and completing of things, where Shabbos, right, we don't do bear, we don't have this thing of sifting and separating, right? We're not completing things, right? We're really in a state of just being, because everything's been elevated up into its source, within creator, right? So everything is like, it's like Hashem, like just like takes breath and everything comes back up into him as it is within Hashem, like all the world. And that's also why we don't blow shofar on Rosh Hashanah. Like, so in Chassidus, like when it falls on Shabbos, we blow shofar on Rosh Hashanah, always important to hear shofar on Rosh Hashanah. But when Rosh Hashanah falls on Shabbos, we don't hear shofar that day, because it's like, we're at a place almost higher than that. Like, and what's accomplished in that level, because on Rosh Hashanah, when it falls on a weekday, the internal part of the world is elevated and the external kind of stays, if that makes sense. I don't know if that's like the best way to, but on Shabbos, because the whole external is elevated as well, we don't need to have that blowing the shofar for the first day, because the external, we're like there, we're within Shabbos, within Hashem. So that's why we have that. And then you can tell like the energy, like it feels a little different when you're in that state. So okay, the ha'adam hu makabel chayus mina achol shehu v'chinas achor. Okay, v'zeu inyan tzadik ochel lesova nafsho ki yesh beis achilos echad hu lesova nafsho. Okay, so oh wait, sorry, I missed the part with the yud beis lachamim. Okay, okay, but sorry, I missed a line. V'shavas huzman aliyas ha'olamos misaleh hamachal kamosh hu b'sharsho v'nimshach mimenu chayus lanefesh milamala. Lamata al yedei yud beis lachamim, right? So we said the 12 showbreads in the line that we opened. We talked about there's 12, and that's why people like to make 6 braids with challahs, actually, because each braid is like a roll unto itself. And so when you have 2 6-braid challahs on your table, you have 12 challahs. And so that what comes down through this challah is this revelation of this type of higher eating, higher elevated eating. It says like the Baal Shem Tov used to experience revelations of Moshe Rabbeinu when he ate. Like what you think, like okay, but no, that because it was a total godly experience, and that's really and this goes to talk about in Mashiach times, which we really are in Mashiach times. You notice like people in like the past several years, like food has been such a thing that people struggle and work with. Like back in the day, people weren't struggling working with food. They were always like, it was like a normal thing to be saying this, like having a scoff with food. Nowadays, people are so careful to say, like, don't develop an eating disorder. Like, just as like, it's true because we've worked through this quite a bit. And like, we also have more than we ever had before, which is, so in that regard, we do have this because we want to make sure that we're making the right choices and whatever else. But going back to our mimer, when everything's elevated up into that point, so even those sparks of food that are from tohu, they're in their pre-fallen state. It's not broken shards of tohu. It's actually the pristine lights of tohu as they are. That pristine vision having not fallen because it couldn't be perfect enough and it had to break. Like that pristine vision, like as it is within its source. And because we're all elevated, the soul is able to take that in, and it's actually the pleasure that we receive on Shabbos. It's nourishing, not our bodies, it's nourishing our soul. Us receiving that delight and that pleasure on Shabbos because we're receiving, and that's why even talks about like intimacy on Shabbos, like receiving that on Shabbos. We're going to the place, there's no ego there. Because what's ego, right? It's like the mixture of Tov and Ra. It's self-awareness, self-consciousness, right? Like that was what happened. The Abram ate the das. What did they become aware of? Themselves, right? And then they recognize themselves that they weren't wearing clothes, right? It's a self-awareness. And what is ego? It's really like this so uncomfortable with self. So I need to either be this way or that way. Ego is just like we feel ourselves too much. It doesn't necessarily mean like ego, we could say it's arrogance, not necessarily arrogance. It could be sometimes like extreme insecurity. It could be sometimes like extreme self-consciousness. It could be, sometimes like we have a trauma and it's like we just can't, and something happens, it triggers us and we just feel hit there. The same way that if I have a bruise and I knock myself there, I'm like, ow, it hurts like 20 times more than it would have hurt had I just like knocked myself regular. I might not have even noticed it if I didn't hurt myself there before. The same thing, like on the person, when we have a sensitivity in one place and then we keep being in that place, it's not because we are arrogant, it's because we just have to heal something. Otherwise we're feeling ourselves too much there. And that's ego in a way. Like it's not healthy. It's just something that we have to, work on and become more and bring more light there and become more in that space. Okay, yeah, so here we go. Aval ha'achila b'Shabbos hi hamshacha milamala l'sova nafsho mechamas hamach al kamoshahu b'sharsho lamala kodem shenafal b'shir hakelim she'ein bo bearer. So right, the eating on Shabbos, we're eating from a place that's so high, it's before Shviras HaKelim. There's no such thing, it's before creation. The created world is going to a pre-creation state. So we're receiving from unbroken, like it's completely whole, like receiving from from wholeness. We're receiving godliness. We're receiving, and even says with the Eitz Hadas, like they would have been allowed to eat it. They just had to wait till Shabbos, like because Shabbos is this place that it's not subject to brokenness, and it's also because it's within the world of Tikkun. It is set like 7 is within nature, but it's this and Tikkun is this massive vessel that can actually receive that kind of light. Like that is the whole point with Tikkun, even though it's more orderly and more straight and more and sensical, and there's like it's but and there's borders and limits. That is actually, and through that though, we're actually able to receive something so infinite, where the pristine lights of Tohu couldn't be contained in a vessel of Tohu because the vessel was just too small. It was like too perfect. It didn't have any room to be able to receive or blend with anything else. But the world of Tikkun, and especially Shabbos, especially with Malchus, is able to obviously the ultimate receiver is able to receive from that level. Zohar, look, I'm sorry. So usually when we're eating, we're actually doing a process from below to above, right? We're eating, we're getting the energy, and we're elevating, we're using whatever we eat to elevate us, and we're elevating it, and we're, on Shabbos, we're actually receiving a complete download from above. It's not below to above, it's from above to below. It's just like us receive, and so like that's why on Shabbos, like just the food, the way that like a mezuzah is essentially holy, right? There's things that are klipas noga, and then there's objects that are the object of a mitzvah, a sefer Torah, a mezuzah, tefillin, right? These are objects. So on Shabbos, your food is like tefillin. Like the food is the object of a mitzvah. It's not like, oh, and I have to, and this and this. And no, like your food, your clothes, these are objects of a mitzvah on Shabbos, like your beautiful clothes and your pleasure that you have on Shabbos. This is the chafetz mitzvah. This is this is as holy as like a mezuzah. Like this is the object of your mitzvah. This is what you're using, because mitzvah meaning connection. This is through which you're connecting to Hashem. In not like, oh, here I'm going to throw you a bone, but no, it's his ultimate desire is his ultimate desire is for us to be able to experience him in mom came in a panemius way. Keep going.
Yeah, it's crazy that it's literally kind of that level of holiness of the mitzvah.
Right, isn't it crazy?
Yeah, blowing my mind.
Thanks. Okay. Where was it? B'Shabbos, shehu na'aseh milamala lamata, ein bo psoles klal, ki psoles hu me'etz hadas tova, right? On Shabbos, because it's from above to below, there's no waste at all. Like the whole process of how we, so I wonder if I'm not going to say it. so the whole process of how we digest is literally, it's a muscle for like what's happening, like this is so not gonna go. Hi, okay.
Whatever you think.
Adam Harishon ate Eitz Hadas, right? So because since Adam Harishon ate from the Eitz Hadas, okay, and everything has like every good. We have a mixture, it's a mixture, right? And that's like the process of geula, or using the whatever like ra, which is ra'ui, like the misalignment, and bringing it back into alignment, and using everything, like it says like b'chol modecha, right? And says tov is the Yetzer Tov, and tov ma'od is the Yetzer Hara. And the whole thing is we want to serve Hashem b'chol modecha with all of us. It's not that he doesn't, like every single part of us is literally just, it's not, he doesn't say like get rid of it, I just want tov. He's like, no, I want tov mode, like bring your whole self. Like he didn't give, and he couldn't give the Torah to perfect people. He gave the Torah to, it had to be like a tzibur, right? Okay. V'gam b'chol adam yesh taruves tov v'ra, rak she'no shava b'chol nefesh, yesh shetov shalom merubah hulu, v'ken yesh shetov shalom hu b'vchinas zo hulu. Aval b'Shabbos, Az tisaneg al Hashem lamala me'etz hadas, right? So on Shabbos, we are having delight in Hashem. We are enjoying, we are having like pleasure in Hashem that's above the Eitz Hadas Torah. Below Yigura Harachu, and there's no evil dwelling within us. And I mean, some people notice like you feel different on Shabbos. Like there's something just different. Like I don't know, I don't get stressed out about things that stress me out during the week on Shabbos. They're just like everything just seems like we can tap into that feeling of like total wholeness, and there's like nothing, everything's perfect right now, right? Rak b'Yom Tov ksiv. So there's this, and then he brings in, okay, so Shabbos, what about Yom Tov? Because Yom Tov is like this gray area, right? On Yom Tov, we actually can cook on Yom Tov, like so we can do some sort of malacha. We can only do malacha that's connected to eating, to food, like the immediate eating of food. But it's not like total Shabbos. It's like a little different, and we can carry, and because of that, really the food thing. But it's a little different. So what's that about? So he says that. So because it's kind of this intermediate place, he says that is why there is actually this mitzvah on Yom Tov to have guests. Where on Shabbos, like there's no mitzvah to like eat your meal with guests. Like Shabbos, like you can receive the full delight of Shabbos. Just enjoy, like just by the eating, just by whatever it is. On Yom Tov, you have this extra thing of having guests. The feast of Yom Tov yesh bo katsas bearer sharei hutrabo meleches ochel, right? Because you can cook and you can bake, you can do these things on Yom Tov, and you just can't like do the things of harvesting. Because he's saying, because Yom Tov is a time of simcha, and when a person is in a way of simcha, like they're expanding themselves, right? They're expanding themselves, they're making room for others. And like, where does Hashem, the ego kind of comes from contraction, right? Hashem contracts his light, like within Gevurah, there is the whole, the contraction, like contraction comes from, right? Like as we come down, and that leaves space when things are contracted, that leaves space for ego, for yeshus, and that's kind of where Ra comes in. Like it says in Chassidus that Gevurah can actually reach higher than Chesed. However, Gevurah can get to a place of misalignment that it literally can't be rectified. And Chesed, no matter what, it can always be rectified. I think there was like a Rebbe once said to somebody when they're talking about like disciplining a child, he was like, well, okay, like the worst thing you do is you say something, better to say something nice when it should have been than to say something harsh, like erring on the side of being gentle and kind, right? Erring on the side of like, will always kind of come right. But if like traumatize somebody with,
oh shoot, I was too nice.
Yeah.
Like, let that be your worst problem.
Yeah, like they'll get what they need to get somewhere else. Like if it was that they needed some sort of discipline, like, I mean, he didn't say not to discipline, of course, but like I'm saying, but erring on the side of gentle, and like they'll get whatever fixing up, like whatever needs to be aligned, it will get aligned. Where if somebody's like too harsh where they should have been kind and they misjudged the situation and was harsh, that can really make a scar on a person, where like the kindness is not going to make.
It is a Shalom bias class after all.
It's a Shalom bias class. I knew it would get there. So the guests, so having guests, and it kind of reduces a person's ego in that way, because the simcha, there's expansion, and it adds to the simcha to have people, and it takes us out of ourselves. And so just by having guests, we elevate to like the Shabbos level.
Wow.
Just one guest elevates us to the Shabbos level. So just because it like reduces the, because like Shabbos is a place of all pneumius. So you just want to be pneumius within yourself. But Yom Tov is it's a different kind of energy. There's something about being together. There's something, because Shabbos is about pleasure and Yom Tov is about simcha, right? And pleasure is very like inward, and you can experience within yourself, and doesn't necessarily have to be social. And simcha, though, it's like when somebody's in a state of simcha, like they want, not you're talking about the pneumius simcha, like we do have a state of pneumius simcha in ourselves, but that's usually more connected to our pleasure within our being. But like the simcha around being other, we just want to be around other people. So when we let another person in, we're elevating our whole being up until that Shabbos state. So how does this all come back? So he says it sweetens the dinim, basically, by having that guest. Zeu b'yom tov, ava b'shabbos, okay, so he's like, so on Yom Tov, we have this extra thing that we need to add. I'm not gonna go into all of it because I'm just gonna get a little complicated. But on Shabbos and we're sweetening, we're hamtakas hadinim when we have that guest, because we're going out of ourselves a little bit, because really that's the contraction is kind of where ego comes from, like where fear comes from, where like we're in with that little, and not even in a terrible way, just it's like a byproduct of it. It's just kind of part of, and even when we talk about like a healthy ego that has to have healthy self-awareness of our whatever we're doing in order to protect ourselves, that still is a state of contraction. Like it's not that it's bad. It could be that it's what we need to be focusing on whatever at the time. But the self-awareness versus it being just like a smooth flow that comes right through us. And it's true, like nowadays we need to have, things don't just flow through us so easily. We need to have that consciousness. We need to have this self-awareness sometimes in a very healthy way. But and Yom Tov is the time to really, we add that guest, we sweeten the dinim that could be connected to that like self-focus, and we elevate our whole table to a Shabbos experience. And so how does this bring us to the breads? Okay. Okay, so we're talking about letters of Hashem's name. Okay. So V'hinei Hamshacha Zohi base Bechinos Kafila Uklisha. So this is in two ways, right? In the Kafila and the doubled Uklisha in the weekend. So what does this mean, Kafila Uklisha? So we have Hashem's name, and we have the Yud and the Hey and the Vav and the Hey. And we know the Yud and the Hey are Chachma Bina, right? They're we talk about, even like it says in Tanya, when things happen in this world that we don't necessarily invite or want them, we're saying, oh, they're coming from a higher level, right? It's coming from the Yud and the Hey of Hashem's name. So maybe it didn't come down in a way that's manifest. It says this in one place. Let me see that. Manifest, but we can know, okay, it's coming from a higher place. So it's even a bigger bracha than I could have ever known. Meaning that like it's not always totally revealed, right? It has to come, the Vav and the Hey are the expression of it, and the Yud and the Hey are the Chachma Bina of it. Like in the Yud being that flash, like we're just like talking about Chachma. Chachma is like, it's a flash, and it's literally, it is like a point. It's not like a expanded vision. It's a vision that's like a flash. It's like doesn't last, doesn't stay. It's just like a little point. And the thing about it is it has such a generalness to it. Like we were saying earlier, like to relay a chachma to somebody, I can give a really good one-liner or like a really good story. You see a really good, like, oh, that's really inspirational. So the chachma of it, that it can apply to, people can understand it on so many different levels because it's not so specific. It's just like a general idea. And it's not necessarily drawing down even the essence of the idea. You could explain that same thing to a child maybe, and an adult could also, and they could both think, wow, that's amazing. They understand it very differently within themselves, but they're receiving that chachma on their level that they understand it at. Where Bina, because it's more elaborated and it's more, and so the Yud gives to the Vav, basically, like in the Vav as they look similar, like the Vav is a longer Yud, right? It's a more elaborated maybe Yud. It's like, instead of just the idea, we have a little sentence or a story or something to give it over. It's not, it's elaborated. It's more graspable. That's the thing with love. It's bringing it down into a way that's more tangible, right? It's tangible. It's something I can understand and grasp. So the Hey is different. The Hey, Bina, it's hard to give over a Bina. And it's interesting because like the Rebbe Rashab, it's his birthday, and his Chassidus had so many words and so many volumes to it, because to give over something, Bina is deeper. You understand it deeper. When you understand something deeper within yourself, you have to really, to give over something you understand deeply, you have to really chew on it and pick the words to be able to give it to somebody else. And what you give over to somebody else isn't exactly how it really appeared in your mind, because it's like broken into words. And so by the time you give it over, it's kind of in a weaker state of what it was in its state. It's not that it's in a weaker state because it's in it's kind of watered down than it is within ourselves. And it talks about like, Shaul Melech's, soul says was from Bina of Atzilus. And that's why, like, he made that one little mistake with Amalek, like he let the king live and the livestock live. And it's like, and so you think like, okay, David HaMelech like sent some lady's wife off to war, and then he took her as what, like it seems like it was Emily's husband. It's like it seems like, you know, Shaul HaMelech was like a little too compassionate, and like it was the wrong time for that thing, and he let evil. Okay, that was bad, but like David HaMelech like, did a lot of like stuff there that he did. So it says in Chassidus that Shaul HaMelech still actually came from Bina of Atzilus. And at that level, it's such a pristine state, there's like no room for error there. Where Malchus is also, there is also judgment, but there's so much room. There's just so much room for error. It's a more, it's a weaker kind of revelation of MS. It's MS in its purest form in a lot of ways, because obviously it's not MS if it can't reach the bottom. But there's something, it's a weaker. But in the times, and so then this speaks out in the times of Mashiach, how they're going to be equal. It's actually going to be equal, right? If they were going to have the same revelation in the Yud K as we do in the Vav K, and it even says some places that the Vav and the K would also be a Yud and a Hey. And so, because the times of Mashiach, everything's going to be in that elevated state. So it's going to be as pristine as it is within ourselves. We'll be able to experience it outside of ourselves. As pristine as the world of thought will be the world of speech. Like we'll be able to, things will just be that much more expanded. And that is the revelation of the Ki Yigalel Taimei, because that is the revelation of the and that's like the revelation they're saying in that's why we'd say Yigalel and Taimei, we want the secrets of the 12, reveal the secrets of the 12 showbreads, and of the letter of his name that can be doubled or weakened, meaning like we're talking about the Hey, we want the Hey, which is the last letter of Hashem's name, is the Hey, which is we're in it, like we are it, we're in, like which is obviously it's dimmer, it's weakened, that's where concealment happens, but we want it to be revealed. We want those secrets to be revealed within the lower Hey. And then it says, and that's what he says, but Yomahu Yiyah Hashem Echad Shmo Echad, because because it's the Yud and the K, the Yud and the Hey, and the Yud and the Hey. And so that is the beautiful mimer of this week. And I think it really also connects with Sari Minu in terms of the body, the soul following the body in Mashiach times, like us receiving from this very high level, like it's like from the pre-created state, but within post-creation. So Chaim Uvracha, and I have two people. There's someone else there. They're both you. The other Chana is there. Hi, Chana. To you. It's another. Hello.
So basically you're saying it's full transparency. Yud K is full transparency.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, that's huge.
Do you have a takeaway?
Always, yeah. But if you want to start with this Chana, you can. Hi, Chana. All the Chanas.
Don't feel like
That is wild what you just said. Because, okay, my takeaway is that today I asked my husband about something that he said, but I was like, that wasn't the nicest thing on planet Earth. And he was like, no, I just wanted you to feel cared and loved. I was like, what? Why did it come with all these masks and all these vessels, and who needs all those garments? Like, if the best thing ever was happening, why wasn't I experiencing that? Is it your fault? Is it my fault? It's like, no, it's actually Valke's fault. Like, it's actually this level of like concealment in the world.
Yeah.
So it's like Mashiach is, you don't need to listen for the Kavana Salef. Like, you don't need to listen to hear his heart. What is he really saying when he criticizes me? It's really such love. Like, none of that. It's just full transparency. The full inner goodness of another person will be revealed to the other person, their full inner goodness. No layers, no masks, no la 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 la. That's amazing. This made me so excited for Mashiach. And the other takeaway was about Shabbos. When you're like, oh, on Shabbos we're just in the bliss. I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm all my psychotic thoughts.
Oh.
So no, I closed my eyes like, I could be that person. I could be the person. I'm like, you then start talking about guests. And it's like, oh, that's actually when I feel it. When I'm at home Friday night with guests, like I remember one Shabbos, I was like, I'm gonna be really introspective, and I'm gonna like really like this Shabbos, like Panemi is an inner space. And then you came for Shabbos, and you kept cracking me up the whole meal. And then afterwards, I realized I didn't have any time for like. It was last year, like how I didn't have any time to like think all of my insane thoughts because I was a place of simple, a place of expansion. It wasn't me in my inner world and like fighting my thoughts. It was like this place of like, oh, do you want tea? And oh, like how's your week and what's going on? And let's laugh. And it was like Simcha literally draws you out. And that makes sense because why Shabbos is, even though it's so inner, Shabbos is meant to be spent with other people. And I heard from Mara Pasera, like my husband told me, the possible man, that he said like Shabbos is, it was from his son. That Shabbos is not a time for like inner reflection, even though that's what all the self-help books will tell you Shabbos is. It's a time of Simcha. And like there is the idea of like oneg, of like you're in your inner pleasure, but that's also why you need to be with other people on Shabbos, because it's such a big light that other people like draw that inner pleasure out to a place that is actually like enjoyable. And so it just made me really understand why Shabbos and guests. I know Yom Tov and guests is like mamish like the thing, because guests and Simcha are like outwardness, and Shabbos has an inner dimension. It makes sense why even one Shabbos guest, it gets you out of your own whatever.
It gets you out of yourself.
It does. It's very positive.
Yeah. And even like when we see our spouses, so sometimes like I forget it's my spouse, another person. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like it's like they're this thing in my life that's like preventing me from being, it's like so stupid. It's like that. Oh, like I can go out of I can go out of myself for that person. I can like actually like get out of my worries and my egos and whatever. Like I can just like, make that person an egg and it will like make them super happy. Or like I can just like, maybe be sensitive to how they're feeling and not like be stuck in how I'm like.
Like it's like you have a constant guest.
Yeah, it's like you have a constant guest in a way.
That's so funny. I remember before I was married, like, and I was like really young, and I was at a friend's house, and her husband asked her for a cup of water. I remember thinking, like, why is he so bossy? What do you think marriage is? Like, he was in the other room, like, why did he get his own cup of water? And she was like 2 weeks married and so happy getting the cup of water. I still thinking about that sometimes. Like, why did I think that was such a bad thing?
So funny.
I was like, signs of abuse. Like, I was like,
I think I had that experience also with a friend. I was like, why is he just on his, like, he was learning the course so he could make money. He turned out a lot of, I was like, can he just like get off his stupid course and like come and help? Being like, yep, we have this house because of his course.
It's so funny.
But then I had actually found a piece of paper on his desk in that trip that was like, it was like what's it called? Like when you have the circle and the things that go off of it. And
Venn diagram.
yeah, and no, that's the Kamala Harris thing. That's not the same.
If she heard Venn diagrams first, she's cursed. I'm sorry.
It's a mind mapping.
A mind map.
Yeah. So, but in the center of it was like make my wife happy, and I was like, okay.
Are you serious?
Continue his course. Yeah.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
That was on his desk.
Yeah.
I feel like that's the point.
It was like literally, I was like, oh my gosh, like that's why he's acting like that. Like, and I was like, wow, that's amazing. I was like, and he chose to write that himself. He actually means that. Like, but it's really, I have to think that like, cause most men, like that is the center of their, not Venn diagram, but of their mind map is literally like make my life happy.
Yeah, of their mind map.
Yeah.
I think that's the center of Hashem's mind map.
Yeah, it's literally make my mind, that's literally like, like, what kind of Dira B'Tachtonim is it if the wife's not happy? Like.
And all of Chassidus is telling us to make the center of your mind map, like just Hashem.
To like, or like, and like allow yourself to get into the center of Hashem's mind map. Like.
Allow yourself to get into the center. Like trust that you're in the center of Hashem's mind map.
Yeah.
And make Hashem like the center of yours. Like the other day I tried making pancakes before I davened. Big flop. I'm like, you know why? Because Hashem wasn't in the center of my mind map.
You ruined your pancakes.
Yeah. And then I tried making them after davening. I'm like, I'm gonna eat these pancakes with you, Hashem, now. And they were still bad. And I was like, it wasn't my fault.
It was your fault.
It just wasn't meant to be.
Yeah. So that's today's.
Well, Hannah, should we make a podcast? Or are we
I think
back
we should
on-
make a
I
podcast.
think it's fun. I've had it a long time.
Is she there? Hannah, did you want to share something?
Any takeaways? Aria fired me from Google.
Okay, have a great week.
Thank
Shabbat
you
shalom.
so much. Thank you for joining. Enjoy your beautiful Shabbos and your Shabbos guests. Yeah. Close
Yeah, and a Shabbos guest. Yeah.